I'm so glad to have you here today. Blair Taylor was my first agent in Los Angeles,
Yep.
and he's one of my dear friends, and I'm so excited to have him here, partly because I know he will be honest with us, and that he and I can have a really frank conversation about this industry. And to just kick us off, Blair, can you tell us a little bit about your history of being an agent and where you are now so that people can get a little context for what we're talking about today?
Perfect. So I have been an agent for 24 years. I started when I was a child, and I started out with Abrams Arts Agency, which is a huge bi-coastal agency. Got my training there, then went to a place called Commercial Talent. I was there for 18 years, representing primarily commercial actors as well as TV hosts. And I left there 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years in May, started my own company, and I represent host talent experts. I do a lot of celebrity brokering of deals, and I represent commercial actors.
Right. Thank you for being here today. Part of the reason why I think, I've heard Blair speak about this before, and part of the reason why I wanted to hear from you is because I think that what you talk about applies to both theatrical and commercial, because you've been in for as long as you've been. I know it was just a few years ago. But to kind of get us started, I wanted to get us started. Can you just think of like a client who is one of your favorites? It doesn't have to be me. And can you tell me like what in that relationship, what about that relationship makes them your favorite client? Like what about, and maybe the word favorite may be too strong, but like one that you really like, I guess. So, what about the relationship makes that so good?
Well, personality aside, because I've become, like you, very good friends with my clients. So that aside, from a business standpoint, what makes me like a client is when I have respect for them. And when I have respect for them, it's because they understand their business, they're knowledgeable, they're proactive, they take active steps in their career. And I think quite often, actors can rely too much on an agent or a manager to do the work for them, rather than seeing us as an equal partnership. So I really, really appreciate and respect actors that kind of recognize that we work together, and those are my favorite ones. They just take it seriously, and they're in command of they're these are your businesses. They're mini businesses, and you have to be the CEO of your business, which means you run the ship, you're the captain, and I expect that of you. And when you do that, you gain my respect, and it pays off. You see people working who do that.
I love what you said there. And when you say about people, running their business or being their business, how do you see that? Like, what actions have you seen that like really either lit you up, or you just kind of knew that they were moving and shaking on their own, not just relying on you? What does that behavior look like? What do you notice?
It's interesting. It really shows up when, and I have to be really careful here, when they don't ask stupid questions.
Go for it. I said you'd be frank and honest. So
right. I don't like actors that call me up and ask me basic questions about their own business. There's resources out there that will help them stay updated and knowledgeable about what they should know about the business. So when an actor calls me up and says, well, how much do I get paid to do this? Or how much, like really basic stuff, then I'm being seen as a resource. And that tells me you're lazy because you also have a way to gather this information and you don't do it. There's Hollywood Reporter, and there's Deadline.com, and there's all these resources where you can understand your business. And when you understand it, you don't ask, and stupid is probably the wrong word, but you don't ask elementary questions that someone who I want to work with won't ask.
So you're saying like at least do a Google search before you call me? Like if you can figure this out on your own, why? Yeah.
I find most actors are very lazy.
Okay.
Here's what I do. I get up, like today, I got up at 5:15. I worked until about 7:30 this morning. Then I went to the gym. Then I got back at 9:30, and I worked up until, I ate a bowl of cereal for lunch at my desk. That was my day. And quite honestly, Brian, you and I had this scheduled for 4 o'clock. I finally got in the car at 3:45 to go to my mailbox, and I got in the car. I was backing on, and the thing went, alert, you have a call with Brian in 15 minutes. And I drove right back into my garage, parked my car, came back in the house, because it doesn't stop for me. I work 9-10 hours a day. I don't have a boss here. There's no one telling me what to do. I work that hard to get my clients jobs. And what I find really irritating, and probably the biggest pet peeve that I have, is actors that don't commit that same level of time to their own businesses. They get up, they go to the gym, they watch TV, maybe they take a class at night, maybe, like, but they're not doing the work. Like, you know, there is, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book talking about 10,000 hours. You do 10,000 of something and you become, whether it's dribbling baskets or you have to put in your time, you have to put in your hours. Actors don't do that. They'll put in, you know, they'll do an hour, and I'm being very general here, but this has been my experience. And by the way, asterisk all of that, the fact that you have people that are willing to just commit in themselves through what you're doing tells me that a lot of these people probably don't fit that mold.
Right. Okay.
Right. But
hey guys, we got a stamp. We got a good stamp of approval in a way.
Right. But the fact that there's a lot of people that don't even do that, and
Right.
the people that are watching this right now know those people because they're their friends.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So the people that just don't invest the time, actors want to sit home, wait for the phone to ring, and when it doesn't ring, they call their agents and they complain, or they drop their agents because they think, well, they're not doing anything for me. And in the meantime, they're not even doing enough for themselves. I make 10%. If it's non-union, 20% on your job. So you're only going to get, from a perspective, you're going to get 10% of my time investment into your career. You have to give me 90%.
Yeah.
It rarely happens.
So when you're saying that, so what I'm curious about this is, when you have a client, I bet you can kind of see that when it's happening, because you're seeing it more often, whatever. When someone comes into you for the first time, which is a lot of what people who are watching this right now be thinking about, is how does an actor, how do you pick that up off of an actor? How do you feel that or see that, or what are they saying that says, I'm doing that 90% on my end? What are they saying?
Well, some of it's in the way that I ask questions, and again, it's only based on how we're going to communicate with each other. So if we're communicating as peers, I know it's someone I can work with. And a great example is if I say, you know, we'll be sitting there in the meeting and I'll say, well, tell me what casting directors you know. Like, if they can't even name casting directors, if you don't know who out there has the power to hire you, like that's a check mark against you. If you ask me basic questions, again, about me or my business that you should already know because they're kind of foundational questions about the business, then you're using me as a resource and not as a peer, not as a partner. You know what I'm saying? You have to come in with your shit, and I'll come in with mine, and together we're gonna make something really awesome. But it's not my job to fill you up with information to then send you off into the world to be a successful actor. It's your job to come here. Like when you go on a long trip, what do? You put gas in the car, you make sure the oil's filled, you do windshield wiper fluid is filled, you leave filled, and you have to come into on your journey. When you're going to start a journey with me, as silly as it sounds, you have to be ready. Everything's got to be filled up.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is a partnership for Blair looks like we're both standing at the running gate. We've both already trained, not I'm going to just lead you through and tell you how to do all of this. Like, we're showing up to get right. Got
right. And here's the thing is, like, an agent doesn't get paid to develop talent. I'm not paid to look at your headshots. I'm not paid to tell you what classes to take. I'm not paid to tell you about trends in the industry. I'm not paid to be a resource for what the rates are. I'm not paid for any of that. Now, do we do that? Sure. I mean, that happens. It should be a minimum part of the relationship. We should be someone that you can trust and come to bounce things off from, but not because you're too lazy to learn it yourself and you haven't prepared yourself enough for the relationship. A lot of people get agents too soon because they feel the irony is that I can't do my job without my clients. If I don't have clients, I can't do it. The actor can actually do their job without me. So I actually need the actor more than they need me. They just don't realize it that way because they don't position the relationship that way. They step into meetings full of fear, full of anxiety, stress, nerves. They're shaking. But I need them more than they need me, but I don't feel that way. I'm not shaking, I'm not nervous, but I should be the one that feels that way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's interesting.
They've given up their power to someone like an agent, when the most power an actor can have when they're meeting with an agent is to be able to sit across from that agent and say, I'm meeting with you, I'm meeting with this guy, I'm meeting with this agent, I'm meeting with her, and I'm going to choose. You want to be wanted by a lot of people, right? Then you can make your choice of who works for you. And quite often an actor will go with the one agent that gives them attention. And in many cases, it's like regular relationships in the real world. If you're so desperate for a partner, you're going to choose a bad partner.
Right. Yeah. So I love what you're saying here, particularly because I think a lot of actors who are listening are going to be ones who do the work, right? Yeah. And I want to just go a little further in this. Is so in a meeting, you know, I think we can bring a lot of baggage to that meeting because we want it so bad, right? We want it so bad, and we think we want it, even though we haven't even gotten a chance to talk to you. Can you just tell us a little bit about in meetings, like what are some both red flags and green lights that kind of go up for you? And I think you're speaking to this a little bit, but if we can even, you know, put us right into the crucible of the meeting when that's actually happening, what happens for you?
Okay, so I'm going to start out with, I'm going to share a little bit. I'm a big Judge Judy fan.
Okay.
Just say that. And if you ever watch the show, she'll be in the middle of interrogating someone, and then she'll cut them off, and she's like, do not pretend to know what I'm getting at, the purpose of my question. And that happens oftentimes in my meeting is I ask a question and you see their wheels turn because they're trying to give me the answer they think I want, instead of what is a true and honest answer. So people go in thinking, well, I have to act this way. I'll give you a great example. Someone walks into my meeting, sits down, and a little bit in the meeting, I'll say to them, so how old are you? Which everyone is told is supposed to piss you off.
You're not to ask that question. What are you talking about?
Ask the question. How dare you ask that question? How dare? Well, listen, you're asking me to represent you for the next 3, 5, 10, 15. I mean, I've known you forever, 20 years, but you won't even trust me with that information, which is weird. But actors don't really know why they're supposed to hate that question. They just do. So I'll ask that question, and I know damn well how old they are, or I've done my research, and what immediately goes in their head is, I'm not going to tell them how old I am, but I'm going to tell them how old I play. And so someone will come into my office. I had this happen one time. A woman came in, clearly 50, 51, 52 years old. Okay. I knew this because on her resume, she had a credit on a TV show where she played a girlfriend as an adult of a show she was on Hogan's Heroes. Okay. Long gone. So I knew, so she said, you know, well, I really book like mid 30s. And that bummed me out because she didn't look mid 30s, but she lived in so much fear thinking I have to play young. And I told her afterwards, I said, you know, here's the problem. I actually don't need anyone in their mid 30s. I need someone in their early 50s. Had she been honest and owned her age, she would have been a much better, that would have worked out. But she was not even being honest with herself. So she thought for her to be viable, she had to be young. It's not true, right? So that's a great example of where people come in and they're trying to anticipate the reason for an answer. And sometimes the right answer to a question is, I don't know. And that's okay. It's okay. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be human. You have to be, you know, we all have flaws. I have flaws. We can't answer every question. We can't be perfect. But someone who can sit across from me and be really comfortable with who they are, even if they don't know the right answer, is someone that I want to work with.
Yeah, you know.
I think if you can't be honest with who you are in your career, especially in an environment where you're trying to be safe with an agent, you're totally not going to be comfortable in an audition.
It's interesting. You say two things that I want to bring up. And one is that if you want this relationship with this agent to be normal and real, don't not be real in that meeting, because then it's never right. Right. And the other thing is that it's interesting because you contradicted yourself in a beautiful way, which is you can not know the answer to one of the questions, but if you're real with me, I'm going to forgive that piece of it because I'm going to see who you really are. Like there's an authenticity around it. right? Like,
Right.
right.
It's kind of like the interview question where people say, tell us your 3 weakest characteristics, which I think is just crap.
Right.
Because no one's going to say, well, you know what?
I'm
I
late.
steal. Like, I murder people. Like, no one's going to tell you that. They're going to say, I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Like it's all bogus. You know, you want to, and I think it's also important that when someone asks a question that they have to be prepared for the answer as well. So I think that's important, that if you're going to ask someone a question, be prepared for the answer.
Right. So it's interesting. So when we talk about meeting with managers and agents, and I want to cast a broad net here because I want to make sure we kind of include this idea, is that we have to prepare a little bit, because we're not facile with, what are the casting directors that know you? If I might not know that right away without going, oh, I've actually auditioned for this person 4 times. I might do a little homework before I come to the meeting, just so that I can like be chill and be myself when I get there. Does that make sense to you when I say that?
Yeah. Of course.
When I say that, are there any, like you said about the, like, do you know casting directors? Are there any other questions for you that are very telltale questions that are like besides the age and the cast directors? I'm just trying to tap into anything else we might.
Questions that I ask, or questions that they ask me?
Questions that you ask that actually you feel like are like very, like, that's a very, for you, as a pointed question, like that you kind of you know that answer is going to reveal a lot.
Oh. I get more about the questions that they ask me.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So a question that we get a lot is two questions, and they're very similar. Number one, how many people do you have like me? You know, like, right?
Right. Don't ask me that question. You don't deserve to ask that question, is what I think. But yeah.
I also don't know what that means.
Yeah. What are you going to do if you have that information, right? What are you going to do?
Right.
Now do you know that
Oh my gosh. Someone's at the door.
I'll pause you.
Okay, pause.
And we're back. Okay, so we were talking about the questions actors ask and how much that reveals.
So, yeah, so they ask, how many of my type do you have? Which I don't know what that means. Is that age? Is that sex? Is that height? Is that hair color? Is that personality? It's a bad question. It also gives me a really great excuse when I say no to you, that I can just say, we have too many of you. So you kind of build in and out when you think that way. If you don't think you're unique and you think you're just part of a mass, then I can just use that back as an excuse to say, yeah, well, we have too many of you. The other thing I hate is when they ask how many clients we represent. Again, I don't know, like, what's the number? If I tell you 100, is that good? If I tell you 1,000, is that good? Like, because you have no idea how we do our business or what is manageable or not. So it's a question that comes up a lot, and usually when it comes up is at the end of a meeting. So I want to give your viewers a little nugget. I don't know what you call it, your subscribers. I want to give them a little nugget of advice. And I think this applies to any meeting you're ever in or any interaction you're ever in. So if you're going to look at me, you're coming into my office, and I'm going to kind of initiate and run this meeting. So we're having a conversation, and I will engage you in questions, and we will talk. And it's a conversation, so it's back and forth. There will be a point in time in that meeting where I say to you, do you have any questions for me? Right? And that's pretty common. Yeah. And what ends up happening is that's not, oh my gosh, the phone's
so popular. I love it.
Not a little, there we go, I just put it on hold. It's not, doesn't have to be taken literally. What I'm saying to you in that moment is, I'm kind of done with my question.
Things up. Yeah, okay.
We're wrapping. Is there anything? You can ask me a question, you can just share a statement with me, you can use that moment to share something I might not know to ask, because I don't know what I don't know to ask, right? So when someone says, do you have any questions for me? One of two things happen. Either they ask a question, and they sit there and they think and they think and they think and they ask a question, or they'll say, no, we're good. But there is a third option, and that third option is to not ask me a question, or it's just to add information.
Got it. Great.
You know what I mean? And I think that's really, really important. It's our way of kind of saying, when we say, do you have any questions, we're just turning the floor over to you.
Right. And so what you're not saying is, I want to make sure we're clear. You're not saying it's not okay to ask a question there. What you're saying is, at that
Right.
moment, since I'm wrapping things up, it's probably not the time to shoot yourself in the foot by asking a really dumb one.
Right, or just understand that what's happening in that exchange is that I'm just relinquishing a little bit of control of the meeting to you, and that you can do with it what you want. And that, like,
You could do whatever you want. You could say, you know, I wanted to just tell you, I don't think it came up, but I thought it would. I used to be a professional ice skater. If you ever get a call for that,
right.
I want to let you know that. We didn't come
Because
up.
I'm not going to come back and go, oh, that's not a question. Like, I'm not going to do that, because that's not how we interact. It's just, you're right. But that's a great example. By the way, I played professional football, or, you know, I speak 6 languages, or you didn't ask me about this, and, you know, I blah, blah, blah. Whatever that is, that's your time. That's an actor's time to let me know something I don't know.
So in that moment, let's just I want to paint a little story, role play for 1 second.
Uh-huh.
If I were to say to you, I'm thinking about getting new headshots. Do you like XYZ photographer? Would that be a cool question?
Sure.
If I said, I'm thinking about getting new headshots, what photographers do you recommend? Is that an annoying question?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
Because it says lead me, be my agent right now,
Correct.
and be my manager, and
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah.
And it's okay, like, because also, here's the other thing, is when you say to me, do you like this photographer? It's also your way of
Getting to know you, right?
getting to know me and my style. Like, what if I said, oh no, like, what if this person was like, you know, or what do you think of this casting person? So what, like, it's an insight into me.
Right.
Yeah. Again, using me as a resource, like, to rattle off classes, and, you know, what do you like better, this photographer or this photographer? Or what do you like better, this class or this class? Perfectly legitimate question.
Homework on my side. It shows me being part of this, not just saying, be my boss, tell me what to do all of a sudden, like put you in the position of teacher.
Right.
Because
once you become a client, I don't call you up with assignments and duties. Like, I expect that
that's my job.
Right. I expect that you show up ready to go.
Got it.
Right. And if you don't, that's what I said. I think actors show up trying to get an agent too soon because they're not ready to go. Because they think, I can get an agent, because that's one of those boxes they get to check. And then they get to brag about it online. I got an agent. No one brags online. I spent all day in front of my computer submitting on projects on my own. But they get to say they have an agent.
Right. I want to be really mindful of time, but I want to ask you a question. Do you have any? Do you have a fun story of how you've ever met actors in the past, or how you like to meet actors?
No.
Okay.
Wait. You know what? Here's how I love to meet actors.
And it might change from season to season. I get that.
Yeah, it's just got to be organic. I'll tell you how I don't like to meet actors, because again, sometimes it's easier to point out the things. Let me be really clear. I love actors, and I love to be around actors, and I love to be in their environment, and I have such a deep respect for their craft and what they do, and the compassion that they have. You know, actors are the actors and artists from the time they're really small. They've been acting, or they've been singing, or they've been painting. It's part of who they are. They've known from such a young age what they want to do. Like, I didn't know that I want to, like, you don't have, most careers people in other careers don't grow up with that level of passion about their purpose, that it's there since they've been children. Actors have known. Brian, I bet you were doing little plays and silly things. Yeah, that's right, because that's exactly, so I have a deep respect for that. So I really love actors. What I don't love is meeting them in an environment where they're so frazzled in their behavior that it becomes it's unsettling. I'll give you a couple examples. If I go to a party and someone finds out I'm an agent, I see the dynamic change with these people when I know they're looking for representation. It just plays very differently. I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and after the panel, we said, okay, everyone, the panelists will be around for an hour afterwards. We want to talk to them, and it's an hour. I didn't get off the stage, and you're swamped, and it's desperation, and it's this feeling of, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to see this person again. And the desperation stands out more than that person that just kind of takes a step back and chills out and understands they're going to have their time. But the desperation of actors really reveals itself quite quickly when you're especially in a social situation.
Got it.
Most agents, if you ask, or managers will tell you that sometimes that you go out with your friends, and if you're going to be at a party, you ask the people you're with, please don't tell them.
Multiple times I've had that experience. Yeah, please don't tell them. I don't want anybody to get weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want people to get weird because people get weird. You know, if I go out with clients that are also friends, it's like, and you've never done this, thank goodness, but I have friends that are like, oh, this is so-and-so, and he's my agent. It's like, nope, I don't want to be that guy tonight. I just want to be your friend tonight, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
What else, Brian?
Helpful. Is there anything else you want to say to these deserving people who are on their way to look for reps or in the process of it? Don't do it. I'm just kidding.
No, I think do your homework. And not all agents and managers are the same. And the reflex is going to be to just grab the first agent who says yes, because that's I think making decisions out of fear. So just don't do that. If the right agent will come along, here's the thing. I believe the quality of the agent equals the quality of the talent. And this is not a reflection of someone's ability to act, because I find your acting ability to be about 5% of the business. I think there's 95% of other things you have to do to be successful in the business. So this is not about people's skill as an actor. But if you are really overall not a great actor and again, not by acting's sake, but by your
the rest of it all.
By the whole, you are going to attract a similar agent. And I've met with actors that are pretty lousy, and they complain about their pretty lousy agents. I'm like, they don't understand. They can't understand. Why am I not getting out? Why have I not done this? Why I've not done this? I'm like, and then I talk to them and I realize they're not doing their work. I'm like, but you guys kind of deserve each other. Shitty agent, shitty actor. They're both shitty, you know? A great agent has a great actor has a great agent, you know? And you all at least have to be on the same playing field, right?
Yeah, what you're saying. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.